Hello, everybody. We're going to jump right in and do a beginner's tutorial using Camtasia, which is the video editing software that I recommend you use for making your instructional screencast. So I'm recording a Zoom meeting right now, and what I will do is go ahead and switch into the share screen, and then I will share my Camtasia screen with everybody and show you how everything works. Okay, so now I'm screen sharing and everybody should be able to see the basic Camtasia. When you first open the program, I'd already done this step. It'll ask you if you want to start a new project or a new recording. You should select new project, and that is what will get you the full product here. If you just select recording, it's just going to give you the recording toolbar, which you do need, but you also need the rest. So do new project. So step one is how do you record your screen? Since that's what you're going to be doing for the assignment, we'll start with that. Over here on the top left of Camtasia is the record button. All you have to do is select record. Camtasia will shrink down and a record toolbar will pop up in your bottom right. So all of your different recording options are here for you. You need to have your microphone on for the narration, and you can also test because you can see that the microphone is in fact picking up my voice. Camera, mine is off. You can also turn yours on if you want to have your face in that little bubble over on the side of the screen, like we see a lot on YouTube videos. You can definitely do that. Then for your screen recording area, I recommend selecting full screen and then adjusting a little bit. So as you'll see, when I selected full screen, my bottom border jumps down all the way. It's never good in an instructional type of video to capture the date and time or all these little icons that you might have on the bottom. So you can just go to the very corner and adjust it up a little bit. And this should work. If you're recording a full screen PowerPoint or something else that goes full screen, like you're inside a type of software that eliminates all that stuff at the bottom anyway, then you don't have to cut that out. But for most people, you'll want to. Once you've got that all set, you'll just select record at the bottom right, and it will give you a 3-second countdown before recording. And now simply Camtasia is recording my screen. So I'll just go ahead, and maybe just select on just to get some movement on the screen. So when you're delivering your instructional screencast, remember you're going to be using language like I've been using. So on the top left, we'll select technology and programming from the main menu. You can see that this drops down a submenu, and you can choose any subtopic that you're interested in learning more about. Right. So that's an example of what you're going to be doing in your instructional screencast. So now that we have a minute or so of the video recorded, I want to share an important tip. I think that the best strategy for this assignment is to write out your narration, plan what you're going to do on screen, and then run through it a couple times with your narration ideally printed out next to you. Alternatively, you could do like a split screen, or maybe you have two monitors. That's even better. And walk through it, several times. It's only 3 to 5 minutes. So in this way, you're getting familiar with it. You're picking up on any mistakes that you might make, and you're getting comfortable with the narration. Then once you think you're ready, you can go ahead and record this screen recording at the same time as your narration. You should feel pretty comfortable going through it at this point. And it's okay to break from the script a little bit if you think of something on the spot. Just make sure to stay concise. When you're recording, if you make a mistake, I suggest that instead of stopping or pausing the recording, you simply pause your speech for 5 seconds. So that full 5-second break is going to show up visually in the narration on the narration track in Camtasia. And we'll see that here in just a second. That alerts us to where we made a mistake. So it's easier to jump to it within the tracks and cut the mistake out. So when you are done recording, I use the Alt Tab buttons on my keyboard to pull the Camtasia record menu back up. If you can't do that, you can just select it from the icon down here. And then you'll go ahead and select stop. Stop is going to take the recording and render it into 2 separate tracks within Camtasia. So we will jump over there now. Okay, so as you can see, Camtasia went ahead and slapped it right onto our tracks for us. The bottom one is the actual visual screen recording, and the top one is our audio narration. And you can see when we did that 5-second pause, you can jump right to a place where you made a mistake. And that's not to say that you're not going to listen to your entire narration all the way through to make sure you like it, but having this extra space before you start fresh after making a mistake really helps with the editing process. It's a lot harder to do if you actually stop the video every time you make a mistake and then do a new recording. And then you've got, say, 15 little mini recordings that you have to keep moving around. That's not ideal. This is a much easier way to work with the software. So when you are ready to cut out a mistake, so you're going to start your cut at the beginning of the mistake and end your cut right before you start fresh, right? Let's just pretend that area is this 5 seconds that we mocked our mistake. The way that you want to cut it out is first off making sure that both tracks are selected. Right now, just the bottom one is, that's why it's highlighted in yellow. If I click the other one, it will also just be highlighted in yellow. To make sure they're both selected when you do any cutting, which is really important, you want to select Control and then click on the other track. Now they're both yellow, which means that they're both going to get cut. You take your cursor, place it where you want to make your first cut, and go ahead and select this cut tool right here, or split, they call it. And then you'll move your cursor once again to right where you want the video to resume. Again, really important to make sure that both tracks are highlighted. Cut. And these two sections right here that are the mistake, I just selected and hit delete on my keyboard. And then I can just drag these right over here. So that's the basics for your screen recording. Pretty simple. What if you let's say you make your screen recording and you hate it? That's fine. You can just delete everything from off the tracks, and you can even delete this out of here in your screen recordings media bin. That's totally fine. You might have a couple of starts. So once you have something on the track, you can always just delete it off and start over with something new. All right, the next item that I want to show you is how to add images and music into your media bin. So that means maybe you have just like a type of cartoon graphic image that you want to drop in on a certain moment in your screencast, either to emphasize something, or maybe you're adding a touch of humor, whatever the case may be. I'm going to show you how to do that. And then the same goes for music. For those of you who like the idea of music in your title and ending slides, you can definitely throw that in. Some of you seem to really like the music throughout the video in one of the samples. You can do that too. I just recommend that you turn it down and pick something that is not distracting. So in order to get an image onto your screencast, you have to get it into the media bin, which is over here on the left. And you want to use this plus sign to add an item, import media. And I'm already in an images type of folder, so we'll just select a pretty random image here. How about this one? So now it's in my media bin. It's not yet onto the screencast. I have to put it there, and I do so by dragging and dropping. Super simple. So you'll just take the image that you want. And let's say I want to place it right where my cursor's at, and you drop it onto the third track. So now when you get to this area of your track, you saw that this just popped in, right? Because that's where it starts on the timeline. So now once it's there, I can move it. I can make it bigger or smaller, and I can do a variety of other things. You can play with the scale and the opacity over here. And it's the same case for music. So what you want to do is just go online and type in on Google copyright free music, and you should find several sites that have just different types. It's like elevator music, I suppose, but a little bit cooler than that, most of them. And you can just find one of those files that is copyright free, download it, and you'll go through the same process of importing media from your computer and then bringing the file in here. So with that being said, I'm just going to start up here at the top of the menu and work my way down and show you the basics for each of these items. So media is our media bin, and we've already talked about that. The library is some really cool opening slides that you could consider if you wanted to do that. So I'm going to move my tracks down a little bit, and they're really easy to line up, like Camtasia helps with that. because I want to give a little bit of room for a title slide so I can show you guys how to do that. So I'm going to drag the cursor all the way back to the beginning. So within the library, there are really cool backgrounds that you can use. You can always make your own, start with something plain and just use text, drop in your own images. But if you wanted to have something pre-designed, you look in the library, I'll choose motion backgrounds and I'll select this one. You can double click to get a preview. And if you decide that you like it, you, just like before, drag and drop. I'm going to put that right here. I'm going to shrink it just by grabbing it and moving over to the left so that it's not overlaying the video. And then I can, up here, I can adjust this to size. So you can see there's some black left on the left and the right. So I'm going to right click and choose scale to fit. Well, it thinks it is scale to fit. So you can manually drag it out to the sides. Okay, well, that's where it wants to be. So either way, we'll leave it there. Then if we press play, we can see what it looks like. So this particular opening has some motion to it, some lights. It's kind of cool. Now, building on that, let's say that you pick a cool background and you are ready to go ahead and put the title of your video onto the title screen. You want to jump here to annotations. Favorites is just things that you've saved. So annotations is where you will drop in your text boxes. And this is the simplest one right here. So I'm just going to go ahead and drop it down here. And in this case, I can put it here on the third track, but where I want it is the fourth track because I want it to pop up over this particular item. Then if I put my cursor on it, I can see it. We can make it bigger. Okay, we can double click the text. And, we don't want all of our beautiful shiny background to go away. So what we can do is select the box and head over to the right, which is where you can adjust its transparency and things like that. So I went up here to annotations before it was in the call out, and we want it to be in annotations. So we're going to go ahead and make this more transparent. This outline, I don't think we want an outline, so that makes it thicker. We don't want that. So we'll just take the opacity and turn it all the way down and leave that like that. So now if we click, it's a little bit softer. We'd probably want to double click the words, bold them. You can make the font bigger over here and probably even make the color black so we could see it a little better. So as I'm going through this, I'm kind of showing you guys all the different tips and easy things that you need to know how to do. So now we've got this and it looks okay. There's a lot of other things you can play with in the annotation section. So you have these word bubble callouts. You can change the style to all, and then you're going to get a bunch more. There's all different types of arrows that you can use. These are really helpful when you want to point to a link or a menu item to click on. All different types of shapes that you can put in, and you can always overlay text. You can blur and highlight things. You can use sketch motion, which I'm going to show you because it's pretty cool. So it's very easy to use. You just, again, drop it down onto your track. This time we're going to put it on top of track 4. And I'll show you guys what it looks like just when you just drop it in. So it just draws itself in an arrow. If you click on it, when your cursor's over it, you can play with the color and the draw time. So you can make it take much longer to draw. You can make it thicker so it's more noticeable, and it looks pretty cool when it takes a longer time to draw. So that was maybe too long, right? But still kind of a cool concept. The last thing that I want to show you is how to make your words come onto the page in interesting ways. So that is behaviors. And you can see if you hover over each of the effects, it's going to show you what it looks like. And when you want to place an effect like this on words, all you have to do is drag it, and you're going to drop it directly onto the track and the tile with the words. And in this case, Camtasia appears to be thinking. So typically what will happen is that effect gets applied directly onto the tile. And then since we chose explode, if I'm able to go back here and show you what it looks like, you'll see that the words kind of explode onto the screen instead of just popping in. So it's important to use effects like these in order to make the video seem professional and not amateur. Okay, so while Camtasia is thinking, I'm just simply going to go down the list because I did make notes on what I wanted to cover. So transitions here is something that you can use for images. So you can have images spin onto the page, fade into the page, and fade out of the page. So you'll see it's very similar to the behaviors for letters. You just drop the transition directly onto the slide. And you can do that too in between slides if for some reason you're kind of, if you think about like a PowerPoint, the way that a PowerPoint sometimes has a certain effect in between the slides changing, you can do that if you have a big break, like you're switching to a second software program, or there's really like a distinct part one and part two, then you can break your tracks down in to two and insert a break in between, and then put in some type of transition where the slides are making kind of a big deal of themselves to indicate, hey, this is two separate parts. Okay, so seems like Camtasia is still spinning on me. The next item on the list is the cursor effects, and you can play with this. It's fairly simple if you wanted to have your cursor be highlighted in yellow, so it's easier to follow around on the screen. This is a really good technique if the video that you're making requires a lot of clicking and moving around. That way the viewer can follow along with the mouse really easily. Cursor, oh, we just talked about that. The voice narration, that is if you just wanted to record your voice, we're not going to use it, so we could skip down. When you select more, you're going to see that there's a couple more options. One of the important ones is the audio effects. So you can either raise or lower the volume of the recording that you made. And if you're going to use music in the beginning, it's usually nice to fade that in and fade that out. And within the audio effects menu, there is a fade in and fade out option, and those are also drag and drop. So the very last thing that I wanted to share with you about using Camtasia is how to save everything and then how to actually get the file that you're going to be able to upload to YouTube. So when you work with Camtasia, as soon as you create the project and do your screen recording, you'll want to save it. So I suggest creating a separate folder for it entirely and saving everything you do for this project within that folder, like in your homework or documents or English 220 class folder, whatever the case may be. The reason why is because if you're going to drop in any images or music, Camtasia will only look in the file where the initial save is made. It won't pull it from another part of your computer. So all the pieces remain separate until they're opened together in Camtasia. It doesn't work like Microsoft programs do, unfortunately. Once you have made sure that you've done that and you are finished, you've polished everything, you've cut mistakes out, you've added in effects, and you really like it, then save everything again within that same folder. And then up at the top, you can't see this right now because the screen is not cooperating, but there is a menu option called share, and you want to pick local file. And from local file, you'll save as an MP4, and it'll take anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes for the file to render itself and save as that MP4. And then you can just upload the file to YouTube as an MP4. And that is what you're going to share with me for your submission for the assignment. So you'll basically be giving me a cover page with the name of your instructional screencast and the YouTube link, followed by your narration. And that's going to wrap things up for us today. If you have any questions, as usual, you can just go ahead and email me. Thank you.